Well, by far, we have 13 military parades in the history of the People's Republic, and this year we have the 14th military parade. Among all those parades, 3 will be the most important ones. For an explanation on why is that, let's turn to my colleague Liu Xin again. Liu Xin.
Thank you very much, Soya, and hello again from me. And I have the honor to take you back in time to review some of the most significant military parades in contemporary China's history. And we are going to talk about 3 military parades. To start with, we're going to talk about the 1984 military parade. That was the first parade taken after a 25-year break. And the first military parade since the reform and opening up policy was initiated. Well, something special about that military parade was it had altogether 42 formations, including air echelons, and all the 28 types of new weapons and equipment displayed were produced by China, and 19 of them had reached a world's advanced level. And China's strategic missiles also made its debut, capturing the world's imagination. All in all, that military parade was a concentrated display of the PLA's efforts to build itself into a modern and standardized army. And 15 years later, we move on to the 1999 military parade, marking the 50th anniversary of the People's Republic. That military parade was marked by one word: largesse, scale. It was the biggest military parade in China's history. Altogether, 11,000 troops, 52 formations, including 10 air echelons, 17 formations on foot, and 25 mechanized troops. 42 types of new weapons were displayed, and among them only 2 had been displayed back in 1984. And several divisions made their appearance for the first time as well, including the Army Aviation and Marine Corps, as well as the female militia dressed in bright red. They captured the world's attention. In all, Chinese-made high-tech weaponry was the star of that military parade. And very soon, 10 years later, we have come to this year's military parade, which is just 1 hour away. So what will be the highlights of this year's parade? I have some clues for you. Now, this year we'll have 56 formations, including air echelons. The number 56 is very obvious, the number of China's ethnic groups. Now, altogether, 52 new types of weapon will be showcased, and mind the number of formations are different as well. The formations of arrays on foot has been reduced from 17 to 14, while the number of formations mechanized and on motor has been increased from 25 to 30, and the number of air echelons has been increased from 10 to 12. From that, you can see the development of China's military reform. Anyway, this is going to be a fantastic event, once-in-a-lifetime experience, not to be missed by military aficionados as well as for the ordinary people. And you're watching CCTV International. Our special program continues right after this.
My colleague Liu Xin has talked about the 3 major military parades in the history of the People's Republic. How is the military parade developing over the past 6 decades? We have seen the 1941, 49, and 1984, and 1999, and now 2009.
Well, Chinese military parade compared to some European countries, I would say, are less frequent in that we do not hold it annually.
But in the beginning of the Republic,
yes.
10 years we have
yes, 10 years we have an annual parade, and then because of the chaos of Cultural Revolution, we virtually, as Liu Xin have said, stopped it for 25 years. But I think what is most remarkable about the Chinese military parade is that it always corresponds with some historical period. And the most impressive ones are those reviewed by the 4th-generation Chinese leaders, namely by Chairman Mao in 1949, and by Chairman Deng Xiaoping in 1984, and by President Jiang Zemin in 1999, and of course this one by President Hu Jintao. So it echoes a historical period, and since it comes after quite some time, therefore it will be major, grandiose, concentrated performance in which people may have a very good chance to see for themselves how China has really progressed in terms of military development and modernization.
What is the highlight of this year's military parade? Many people are expecting a lot of third-generation equipment, weapon, hardwares. What is the highlights we can look at?
Well, the highlights would be many because, as we have read, actually most of there would be 52 types of new weaponry and equipment. They would be all made in China, and they would, of course, cover all the 3 services plus the second artillery and even the armed police, the reserve forces, etc.
Actually, the organizers and the participants in the massive National Day Parade have made a long preparation for this event. They have already held 4 rehearsals in Tiananmen Square, and the first took place actually roughly a month ago. It featured separate exercises for the mass pageant, human mosaic formations, part of the evening gala, and a military review. A week later, a second rehearsal was staged with a joint exercise of different elements, and the third round in September, the 18th, was dedicated to a complete event. And that last round, which featured joint rehearsals, was held about 10 days ago, 10 days of the actual celebrations. That's the preparation work for the celebration. And all those preparations was to pave the way for the final military parade. Colonel Zhou has just mentioned some of the highlights. So what is your evaluation of Chinese weapon hardware we have seen this time?
As General Liang Guanlin mentioned that China is possessing all advanced weapons that the advanced countries in the West are possessing. For example, in the Army, we have the T-99 type of tank, which is quite advanced. It should be the 3rd generation tank. For the Air Force, we have F-10,
yeah, fighter plane.
Yeah, fighter plane. This is the homemade, and it's the 3rd generation.
Why
fighter.
is it so important we have all those weapons homemade?
Because, as you know, a country like China, which is so big, it is impossible for us to place our hope of security on the others. And if you take into consideration the political system differences of ideologies and also the rising positions of China in the world, many people are very curious about China or very suspicious about China. So it is impossible for us to import all the advanced technologies from outside. Even they are willing to provide this sort of technologies to us. But I don't think we can afford to buy all those advanced technologies from outside.
And for a big power with 1.3 billion people, it must rely on itself for national defense.
Of course.
And for example, let's talk about the equipment. The J-10, we say this is a new generation of fighter, it's the 3rd generation. But what is the significance, what is the undertone of 3rd generation weapons?
Well, right now we have actually 4 generations of aircraft. They have many different features, but there are some prominent ones. For example, if we talk about the 1st generation aircraft, we normally talk about subsonic aircraft. And for the 2nd generation, we talk about supersonic. For the 3rd generation, it's not only supersonic, but it has multiple functions. It has much stronger fire control. It can attack the targets on ground, and its capability of launching missiles beyond the visual range is one of its prominent features. That means, well, in the past, we stressed very much on the eyesight of a pilot, but nowadays, the distance is so far that you virtually target your enemy aircraft on your scan and then fire the missiles.
So this J-10 fighter is actually a typical example of the third generation attack planes.
That's true.
And how about the 99 tanks?
99?
The Type 99 tanks of the infantry.
Oh, the 99 tanks is also considered a third generation main battle tank. It is very much comparable to the most advanced tank in the world. And we're very much proud of that. Yes, I have seen the real tank, and the latest one even have a certain capability of chemical weapon and nuclear weapon capabilities. The loading is automatic and it can fire non-stop. Because previously the tops have to stop and then fire. But then with this
and fire.
Yes, and with this kind of a third generation tank, it virtually can fire while it is in movement. And that requires great stability of the tank itself because it is in the movement.
And you're watching CCTV International, covering on the 60th anniversary of the People's Republic. We are almost 40 minutes short of the military parade, which will take place on Tiananmen Square. For what the military parade is all about and how the troops will move, let's turn again to my colleague Liu Xin for an explanation. Liu Xin.
Thank you very much, Zhou Yue. Well, I'm not going to talk so much about how the parade will move, but rather how the soldiers have been trained. Indeed, to hold a mass military parade every 5 to 10 years is a tradition set in the early days of the People's Republic. And for the tens of 10,000 or so military servicemen to be able to take part in this grand military parade is indeed a lifetime opportunity. So it is also their opportunity to give a very big gift to their nation, and they are going to give nothing short of a perfect experience. That is why they have undergone months of very strenuous trainings. Here are some pictures just to give you a highlight of what they have been going through. Now, you can see this is quite unbelievable if you look at the pictures. These lines are not drawn onto the pictures, but actual lines that are used to form a net so that the soldiers can stand in exactly the same position.
Yes, indeed. If there is anywhere in the world seeking perfection, the Chinese military marching in parade is seeking perfection. They are the perfectionists. They leave nothing to chances, and they train and train until they are the perfect marching soldiers.
Yes, well, they are not going to be satisfied with any mistakes or errors. For instance, from this picture, you can see the way how they are supposed to turn their head when they are marching past the Tiananmen Gate. They're all supposed to turn at exactly the same angle. And even for the infantry on foot, how they hold their guns is meticulously adjusted by the officers.
Yes, indeed. These soldiers are training for, on average, more than 1 year on a daily basis without any interruption until they become the perfection itself.
Yes, and even while the soldiers are greeting the leaders, reviewing the troops, they have to yell in one voice. So even that is practiced as well. And the most important part of the military parade is, of course, the steps.
Yes, indeed. Liu Xin, I think the other impressive thing is that these soldiers are normally only 18 or 19 or 20 years old. They were born, mostly in the 80s, but many of them are also born after 1990. So in China, we call them the new generation, the younger generation, representing the future of China.
But they also had the kind of slight derogatory symbol of being more lazy, more, less disciplined. However, through this military parade, we can see the potential in those younger generation of soldiers. But the point here I want to show with this picture is the exact length, the exact measure of each step is exactly 75 centimeters. And their feet is supposed to be 30 centimeters above ground. And everybody has to do that thousands of times. Kilometers they have to practice for only 98 meters from while they were marching in front of the Tiananmen Gate. That's
128 steps.
128 steps, but months of training, and sometimes they have to use some special methods to train the soldiers' muscles on their legs.
Yes, indeed. When the military parade begins at 10 o'clock, the soldiers in marching formation will march across from the Tiananmen Square. And in between the two columns with the fortune cloud on top of them,
the two Huabiao columns,
the two Huabiao in Chinese, they need to march total distance, as Liu Xing mentioned, 96 meters in 128 steps. But they have been training on a daily basis, more than 10 hours a day, more than 30 kilometers a day for more than 1 year. That means they have already covered a total of more than 10,000 kilometers, which will be more or less the distance between Beijing and New York.
Wow, so this parade must be fantastic. Now, one of the new features of this year's parade is China's special forces. They are very mysterious in the people's eyes because they have kept a relatively very low profile. This force has actually been established since the 1980s, and they're trained, as the name indicates, for special operations such as unconventional warfare or an emergency situation or terrorist attacks and stuff like that. So from the pictures, this is how they look like, the Chinese camouflaged soldiers. Of course, today they will not be in this kind of condition. This is, again, Chinese special forces, but they have been kept a very low profile.
And the training for these special troops for the military parade actually is particularly difficult. This is mainly because their style of warfare is required to be, very stealthy, very secretive, and they are trained not to march in marching formations, but highly individualistic. Therefore, I think it will require a very complete reversal of their normal training as special troops in order to retrain themselves into the role of marching soldiers in order to participate in the military parade this time.
Yeah, but the special forces are famous for their indomitable will, so they will overcome the difficulties, and we can expect a fantastic performance from them as well. Now, we talked about fighter planes, attack planes, and another highlight of this year's military parade is female fighter pilots. This is a first time in China's history that female fighter pilots will be flying over Tiananmen Square in the National Day Parade. Now, altogether in China, we have 16 female fighter pilots, and here is a group picture of all of them. Indeed, the pride of the nation, the pride of Chinese women as well. But why do we need to have female fighter pilots?
Well, China is only one of the 7 countries in the world which has female fighter pilots. Yes. And I think this is very important to represent the fact that female as well as male are very important in national defense, and women actually can play an equally important role in defending their own motherland. And traditionally in Chinese, there have been very important female heroes who had contributed a great deal to the defending of the motherland. Therefore, I think training these female fighter pilots is important to represent the new wave of the Chinese women who want to go through as strenuous training as the male counterparts in order to fly the fighter planes and train themselves to be ready to defend the country whenever it is necessary.
Yes, another interesting thing about these female fighter pilots, they graduated from the same academy as the Shenzhou 7 astronauts, Zhai Zhigang and Liu Boming. So very likely in the future we might have some female taikonauts emerging from the first group of female fighter pilots. So we are looking forward to that. That's going to take another few years. Well, again, here is the handsome, very beautiful J-10 that Zoe was talking about today. It will be making its debut among the 12 flying echelons. However, they're going to pass over the Tiananmen Square so fast that it might be a little bit difficult to recognize them. Now, finally, the female fighter pilots will be the last flying echelon, and they will be flying the trainer planes, and they will have the opportunity to draw smoke above the Tiananmen Square. Now, this is relatively fancier compared to what we can see today, because the air show today that's going to take place above very important residential areas in the heart of Beijing. So we are not going to see fantastic fancy air maneuvers, but rather more meticulous coordination is required.
I was told that in order to be more environmentally friendly, the planes are actually using vegetable oil to draw the smoke as a demonstration. This will make sure that less pollution will be created as a result of the planes flying above the Tiananmen Square.
Indeed, this will be a military parade for the 21st century with environmentally friendly consciousness. Anyway, that's a quick explanation of the highlights to be expected during this year's military parade. And you're watching CCTV International. Our live coverage continues right after this.
We're talking about the training of the soldiers for this military parade. It must be a very hard and exhausting exercise for those soldiers and officers.
Yes, of course it will be, because, well, I think this is very much Chinese in that for such a grandiose military parade, we have to make sure that everything's is impeccable and flawless. Therefore, all the formations got to move actually like one. This requires, of course, a long time training and a lot of hardship that a soldier have to render. Yeah.
And also, people are talking about we are now facing financial crisis. At this particular time, China is putting up a largest military parade ever. So it is appropriate to have such a military parade at this particular time.
Well, I think money always matters, yeah, as is the case with everybody. But the thing is whether you spend money in a significant way or not. In China's case, because we do not hold such a parade annually, and it comes to coincide with the great historical achievements that our military have scored. Therefore, we believe it is worthwhile. But on the other hand, we have also done a lot of things to try to make it economical. Yeah, that's what we always call to build up our military through frugality. A lot of measures are taken. For example, this time they are more concentrated in what we call parade villages. And so people actually live and train there together. And they do not buy any new equipment just for showcasing the military, but they would rather use what they already have, or those already deployed with the troops. There are quite a number of significant measures to make it economic.
General Zhu, we have such a military hardware. Do we need to have such a military hardware in the first place? I mean, with a rising power such as China, what kind of military power should we have in face of the security threats that we will face?
I think if you look at the major countries in the world, I believe the security environment of China is the most complicated one. We are facing not only challenges, but also a series of threats. So to counter these threats and challenges, I think China needs advanced and sophisticated weapons and weapon systems. Otherwise, its security cannot be secured or cannot be guaranteed.
So the Chinese position on its security situation is that we are for offensive.
No,
defensive.
We are for defensive.
Yes.
Yes.
So we are generally a defensive strategies.
Yes. Well, I think such a kind of strategy or policy is adopted by many countries. But in the case of China, we must stick to some fundamental principles. The first one is our 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. And the second is our new security concept, which we have put forward in recent years, which features mutual trust, mutual benefit, equality, and cooperation. And we also have some practical objectives that we have to adhere to in such policies. For example, we do not align ourselves militarily with any countries. And
we do not join any alignment.
No, and that has been the policy for decades, and it's not directed against any third countries. These are the fundamental principles.
So to look at the policy and see if it's defensive or offensive, I think you will have to look at 2 things. One is the posture of the forces. The other is the military behavior. I think if you look at these two things from at the military, the PLA of China, you will find that China's policy is defensive.
And apart from the military parade, of course, there is also the civilian parade, because many civilian people will join in the parade for this year's celebration. Actually, 4 rounds of rehearsals have been held for the festivities celebrating the 60th anniversary.